guys, Sadie here. Today I want to share with you my ayahuasca experience. I've been contemplating on whether I should talk about this on the internet or not, but then I was thinking that I personally checked so many videos after my journey, and I want to believe in the goodness of the world, and I want to believe that this message will do its good for humanity, and there might be someone out there that this video can help. So I basically went to Peru for my first time experiencing ayahuasca, and I chose a retreat center called Etnikas, which is in the Sacred Valley. It's a gorgeous, beautiful property with a great team. I'm going to talk about my experience at Etnikas a little bit, and then I will get into the sensations, the visuals, and the whole experience of ayahuasca, which is probably the strangest thing that I've ever experienced in my life. But I do want to say that I personally, before I went on this journey, I didn't watch a lot of ayahuasca videos of like hearing people's experiences because I wanted to have a fresh, unbiased mind and experience it for myself. And I'm really happy that I did that, because when you listen to too many of these videos, you're taking on all of these people's ideas of how it should go for you. And also, it's the human psyche, right? You remember that thing during your experience. And I personally wanted to just purely concentrate on my own consciousness, on my own healing, and not be interfered by anyone else's thoughts or ideas of how this journey should go. So if you're watching this to see if ayahuasca is good for you or not, like, I understand, but I don't really recommend that you watch the second part of the video where I talk about what I've seen and how it went for me. But then it's all up to you, right? I do think that it's helpful when you come back from your experience to hear my journey and kind of compare it to yourself, because after you come back from ayahuasca, you could be in a state of confusion, or like you'd want to see how other people experienced it and kind of make a meaning out of it for yourself. So first off, like, it's all about how you give your journey meaning. I was reading some TripAdvisor reviews of Etnikas the other day, and there was a few 1 stars, like every place has a 1 star, right? And there was like this guy saying like, it was all fake, I didn't see nothing, like they do like these stupid things and rituals. And then I was like, bro, like, why would you go there if you're not even agreeing on the basic concepts of this plant medicine, you know? Like, so if you're going to experience ayahuasca, you have to have an open mind, an open heart about the rituals, about the plant medicine and its healing effects, and you have to respect it. I'm sure that you've heard this a lot from people, that you have to respect the plant medicine. And I will tell you why. So starting from the beginnings. So obviously you have to do a detox cleansing diet before you go to ayahuasca. From when I was in Canada, I started my diet, cutting out meat, cutting out salt, sugar, coffee, and there's like this long list of the things that you have to cut out 2 weeks before and then 1 week before. And then there's like a very intense fasting the 24 hours before your ayahuasca night. And obviously, like, for obvious reasons, like, this plant is so strong and it's gonna like detox and flush out all of your gut, so you better not have heavy things in there, otherwise you're just gonna feel really bad in your body and maybe in your mind as well. So other than that, you also have to do a mental detox of just being mindful of what you're observing, what you're watching. Like, I would recommend that you just do not watch scary movies or like horror films or horror documentaries. Like, don't watch it like period, like ever, but at least for the 1 to 2 months before your trip, I would recommend that you just put yourself in a soft, healing atmosphere, because it all pays back, and I will tell you why. I personally did all of the diets and all of the things that they suggested, like pretty wholeheartedly. Like they recommended that we don't do any adrenaline invoking activities before the ayahuasca retreat, and if we were to do any hikes or go up to Machu Picchu, we do it after the ceremony, and I respected that, and I did that, and I think that benefited me compared to the people in the retreat who did the hike like 2 days before their ayahuasca retreat. And I want to say here that everybody's experience was like so different, and that was like so interesting to me, that we were all in the same room and with the same medicine, but we had different lessons to learn, different effects, and different things to see. I went solo, so it takes guts. It takes guts to go to a whole other country in the depths of the valleys and the mountains, and just like drink this weird medicine with shamans and people you barely even know. I just love adventures, and I know myself to be a truth seeker. So if there is any chance that I can have a higher consciousness after doing this ceremony, I'll go for it. But I understand that not everybody is like that, and this is why I am not endorsing ayahuasca anywhere, and I'm just sharing my experience here for whoever wants to hear it. Because when I started my ceremony the first night, I was like, holy shit, this is so serious and intense. And I personally, I've had experience with drugs like psychedelics. I've done LSD. Obviously, I've like smoked a lot of weed throughout the years. I'm completely sober right now. It's been 6 months that I've fully sober. But just having the experience of weed, especially because it's kind of like a surrendering kind of effect where you could panic if you wanted, but you better not. You better just surrender and enjoy the effects. So if you haven't experienced anything in your life like weed, LSD, mushrooms, or anything psychedelic, just know that you're up for something really unusual, basically. But if you have experience with those drugs and you were able to maintain your calm and you could surrender to the moment, and you already know that it's not always going to be a pleasant feeling, then you're going to be fine. But there's also another aspect to this plant medicine. It's very uncomfortable in your skin. So basically, when you drink a shot of ayahuasca, it takes around 45 minutes for the first effects to hit you. And we're all sitting in this dark room in a circle with a little altar in the middle, and the shamans and the master and a bunch of, doctors, assistants there to take care of you. There is a cleansing ceremony, so like a whole hour of yoga, meditation. There's this amazing love meditation, which is called Munai meditation. Munai means love. The objective of that is to put yourself in a loving space and just let go of the worries and the stress that you have before the ceremony naturally. And then everybody basically gets their dosage depending on so many factors. So if you have like a bigger body or bigger muscle to fat ratio, you probably will get more from the shaman. And I personally was on my period that day, so they just gave me a tiny little bit, but still that tiny bit did a lot for me. When you take your shot and you sit in that dark room waiting for the effects, I would say that that's the hardest part for me personally, because it's literally sitting in the unknown, waiting for the unknown to happen, and you have no idea what's about to come. But then they do some preparation sessions before the ceremony, right? Everybody talks and is informed on what to expect. One of the great things about Etnikas was I really loved the staff, and they kept telling us to stay with the love and the light. Like, remember, don't be afraid, just stay with the love, stay with the light. Just know that you have to surrender and you have to respect the medicine, and you can't be angry. You can't be wanting to skip a part. Like, you have to go through the stages of this medicine and see what it has to offer you and what it has to show you. And so the first night when I took my first shot, I'll start from the physical effects. So I started to feel like very nauseous, like it was this heavy poison kind of feeling in my belly, and I could feel it just like going around, and it was very uncomfortable. And maybe after 10-15 minutes of discomfort, I threw up. I was like the first one to throw up in that room. I personally don't have a problem with throwing up. I kind of look forward to it because it makes me feel lighter afterwards. And the interesting thing was, like, as soon as I threw up, the journey began, the journey of ayahuasca, and it got visual, and it kind of was, I guess it was like a rite of passage in a way. So we were instructed to have an intention for our first night, and I personally wanted to know what my purpose is. And when I asked this question from Mother Ayahuasca, I remember that I was seeing things, and I was seeing so many visuals of, like kaleidoscope shapes and going high speed through different geometric shapes, and I didn't want to get lost in there, so I kept coming back to my intention, and I was like, what is my purpose? What is my purpose? And I remember the face of this Peruvian woman appeared in between the geometric shapes. She was wearing the Peruvian hats that the ladies wear, and she was kind of like looking away, and she wasn't answering me, and it was like kind of like she was giving me the cold shoulder. And so I asked her, what is it? Like, what is wrong with my question? And she said, you're already here. Like, you think you don't have a purpose? And what that meant to me at that time, and now looking back, was that the biggest gift is to be here. And there are so many beings out there that want to be here and want to have this human experience that we're all having. We're the lucky chosen ones to be here on earth, and we think that we don't have a purpose. Our purpose is to make this place and this experience better. And so it was like a light bulb moment for me, and I said, oh, so how can I be of service? And when I said this, it was basically the same question, but from a different angle, with a different intention. It was like finding my purpose was kind of like this egotistical way of me trying to be successful, trying to be famous and known. And what Mother Ayahuasca was encouraging me was to see myself as another helping hand from the divine. And at that moment, I looked at the room, at the shamans, at the assistants, and I was like, holy shit. This is the purpose. The purpose is to help humanity and to help the earth and to do everything to heal this lineage of humans that are here on earth, reincarnating and rebirthing and rebirthing and rebirthing. And the most valuable thing that you can do is heal the world with your love. And you guys, that was such a beautiful moment for me. I saw myself being called to be a healer and to use my love. I don't need to even do anything specific. And so every time that I asked, what is my purpose? I was seeing different scenarios of how I can be of help and of service, and how I can heal people and who I can heal in my own world with the people that I know in the place that I live. And that night was kind of more of an interactive experience with ayahuasca. So I could just basically keep asking questions and get answers, and keep asking questions and get answers. And so I saw myself as a child, like feeling very lonely, and it was kind of like a chance for me to be with that child and to heal that part of myself. Also, like the neglect that I had felt from my parents, and especially with my relationship with my dad. I remember asking, like, it's not fair that I don't have that kind of support from my dad. And I remember she was saying that that's not your main father, though. Your real father is the Holy Father. And this is something that we had been taught within the Andean teachings from the shamans, that they see God as both feminine and masculine, and they call the feminine side of God Pachamama, and the masculine side as the Holy Father, or the light, the white light, basically. And this was like such a relief for me, and it was such a beautiful night, a lot of crying. I got very emotional, and I kind of like purged all of my whatever emotional traumas that I had, I feel like. And I really saw the value of love. Like, nothing else matters in this life. There's nothing that you can take from this world to whatever's after except for love. Like, I truly felt it. And that kind of like gave me this relief of, doesn't matter how much money I make, or whatever I make in this life will not matter except for the love that I felt and I gave to the people and the things around me. This is something that I've taken with me, and I keep reminding myself of. And I want it to be the core message of this video for anyone who's watching, because y'all, it doesn't have to be too late for us to realize this. Like, we can actually start to realize it now and make this place a heaven instead of the hell that it might be. I truly think that we are so honored and so lucky to be here and to be experiencing this human life. So the ceremony takes like 4 or 5 hours, and around 12:30 I went back to my room. I was feeling amazing. I had a great sleep, and we wake up the next day. There's another ceremony on the second day, but in the morning we do activities like volunteer activities. We go to a dog shelter. We also have a session with everybody to see how everyone's experience was and to be able to ask our questions. And during these few days, we're not eating much because you need to have your stomach mostly empty. And if you are to eat, you're having like juices, fruits, or like very minimal vegetarian food, which is like very delicious, made by the chefs at Etnikas. And the masters and the shamans are, I believe they're from the Inca blood. I know that the owners of Etnikas are all from the Inca bloodline, and the owners and the staff can speak very good English. However, the master and the shamans do not speak English, and you can speak with them if you know Spanish. But their main language is Quechua, and is beautiful. I've been trying to learn so much about Andean culture and their view on spirituality. It's been amazing. I'll talk about that in another video though. So we are at the second night, and the second night I'm kind of less worried and less stressed out because I survived the first night and it was so beautiful and amazing. Again, the 45 minutes of not knowing what's about to happen is like the hardest part for me. And this time I decide that I'm gonna take a little bit more because like this is why I came here. I wanna experience more, because my first night was pretty short. It was like a 1 hour, 2 hour trip, And so the second night, I'm taking a little bit more, and therefore it's hitting me harder. But I don't throw up right away, and that's okay. But still, I'm gonna tell you this, like, breathing is so crucial. Like, you need to keep on breathing and soothing yourself. You have to keep telling yourself it's gonna be all right. So if you want to prepare for this, I do recommend that you try some breath work sessions. You can YouTube these things and find yourself like a 40-minute or a 30-minute breathwork session, because in breathwork you also experience that sensation of like, oh, I'm about to die right now, I'm about to choke, because they ask you to hold your breath on an empty stomach or hold your inhale. And if you can hold that and tell yourself that it's going to be fine, I'm going to get through this, and just soothe yourself through that discomfort, you can kind of prepare yourself for what's about to come on your ayahuasca experience. I have such a high tolerance for pain, for discomfort, and this all comes from my personal experiences in life. How much pain I've felt, how much I have sat with my discomfort, how much I've sat with my shadows, how much I've like expanded myself emotionally. And I could see that a lot of other people, especially men, like, I don't want to draw any conclusions here, but I feel like women, because we get our periods monthly and our periods are very uncomfortable and it's a lot of pain that we have to deal with, they have it easier through the ayahuasca discomfort. But a lot of men were like making noises, like some of them do a little shout here and there. We were instructed that if anybody is having a rough time during their journey, that we just send love to them and we don't judge them, and we focus back on our own journey. This is very important, guys. Regardless of where you go to, just remember that people are on totally different journeys and they could be experiencing totally different things than you, but you should not be getting carried away from what's there for you to learn and what's there for you to see. So the second night, it gets very visual. It's not as much talking, but it's more like seeing things. And I start to see everything. It's like they say the veil drops. I feel like the veil dropped. And I was seeing every possible creature that could ever be created by God. I'm going to word this properly. I was seeing every possible creature that could have been here in my shoes, but didn't get a chance to. So I'm seeing a lot of defected creatures, the ones that look weird and maybe they just have one eye, or maybe they're insects, or maybe they're just weird shapes, right? And they're floating by. There's like this world of spirits, they call it. And I do want to say that there's a lot of people out there making meanings about all of this. But I want to tell you that we don't know. We don't know if these things actually exist, or if it's just coming out of my psyche, and if it's just like a result of my imagination. Because throughout all of this, I realized that the human brain and the human mind is so powerful. It can create whatever it wants. And this ayahuasca trip is like going deep into your psyche. So wait for it. And so I'm seeing things, and because I've concentrated and I've been meditating on love, and we've been told to love everything that you see, even if the thing is ugly, even if it's not exactly what you asked for, you have to love it. This is the lesson of ayahuasca. And so I'm seeing these weird things just like floating by, and I am telling myself I'm not going to be scared. And I'm going to love you, and I'm going to love you, and I'm going to pass through you. And as I send them love, it's like they float away. They float away. I personally was not interested in talking to any of these things, but I know that some people do. I don't know how their experience has been, so I'm just talking about my experience. I'm just observing. I'm like, it feels like I'm on this plane. It feels like a different planet. It feels like something like the moon. It was kind of like gray. It was like dark gray soil on the ground. And I see all these creatures, And some call them aliens, like who knows? And they're like floating around, and I'm giving love, and in the name of love and light, I'm just like, I am this glowing being, and this is where I find out how special I am as a human being, because these creatures are sad. They're looking at me as if they want to be me, and my superpower is that I am a freaking human, and I have a heart that's kind of like lit up in this planet that's so dark, and everything else is lifeless. I can see that they're like grayed out, but I have this light pumping, and that's my love, and it's my heart that makes me so special. And they're looking at me as if I'm this chosen one that God loved, and God allowed me to come in this body and experience these beautiful feelings, and to be able to navigate myself through the darkness. And so I felt fully empowered, and I was like, wow, my heart is my compass. Every time that I focus on my heart, it feels like it lights my path. The light from my heart, it lights my path. And so I keep going, and I keep going, and I see more of them. And then all of a sudden, I just ask for God's help. I don't know what made me do that, honestly, but I just felt like I was in between all of these creatures, and I was like, God, help me. And I did want to understand more about this universe and the divine through my ayahuasca experience, but I did not expect what was about to come. And so when this happened, when I asked for God, I was like deep into the medicine, and I see this light moving at the top of the room, and I look up, and it's this tall man with a white robe, long brown hair. You guessed it right. Oh my goodness. And I'm like, is that Jesus? Are you Jesus? And he looks at me, and he's like, yeah. And he's going around, looks like he's like helping everybody to not panic. And then he tells me that there's nothing to be scared of. You guys are all so scared, but you're all right. Like, I've already taken care of you. You're fine. And then I'm like, no, but sit here with me. And so I remember vividly that he sat right in front of me where I was laying down. And when he came down, he was my size, like he was like a normal human being. And I remember he was so beautiful and handsome. And when he looked into my eyes, I felt this deep love that I have never felt in real life. And it was kind of maybe even a little bit of a romantic. It was like everything, all the holes in my heart were filled with his love, if that makes sense. So I'm just laying there, and he's telling me that you guys keep panicking about everything in this life, and so I had to get into this human body to be able to come and help you. And so he tells me that he's God in human body. And the most interesting thing about this, guys, before you dismiss it or before you judge this, is that I'm not Christian. I was not born in a Christian family or even country. Like, I'm Middle Eastern. I was born a Muslim, and I was never even interested. And so I don't have that kind of bias that you might think that I brought with myself. So and I was never even interested in Jesus or in Christianity or in going to the church. So I didn't have the bias with me. Like, this was not why I was going to do ayahuasca. And it wasn't like something that was indoctrinated in my mind from childhood. Like, no. I was actually always very annoyed with people who kept talking about Jesus. And I was like, why do you have to keep saying that? Why can't you just say God? And so it's like in that moment, everything clicked for me. I was like, I've heard people say that Jesus saves you. It's like when I called for God, this was him. And this was the way that he could help me, because he was in human form instead of like this big light that we all think is God, right? And who really is like the big source of this life. But because we are in a human form and our physics and our mind is capped, right? We can't comprehend a lot of things in this life. For example, infinity or the beginning of creation. There are concepts that we can't comprehend, and we need those kinds of symbols. And basically, Jesus was God appearing in a human symbol so that I could look at him in the eye and I could talk to him with words, and I could feel his touch on my hair and him taking care of me. And this was the most beautiful thing that could ever have happened in my life. I'm just so happy. It was so beautiful. It was just so beautiful. I understand that not everybody will understand this, and maybe not everybody will have this experience. But I remember in my conversation with Jesus, he was telling me that he's there for everyone, and if anybody calls for him, he will answer. And that was so beautiful, and I wanted to share this with you guys. If you're gonna try ayahuasca, or even if you're not, to have this in your mind, because you might need it one day. And so I laid there that night. When you experience ayahuasca, after like the second, third hour, your body is totally numb. Like, you're basically paralyzed. Like, there's not much you can do, and so you can barely even hold the weight of your head. So you better just lie down and go through this dream, or whatever this journey is called. For the rest of that night, this love was so delicious to me that I just wanted to sit in his presence and just talk to him and fill my heart with his love, basically. And so once I knew that Jesus was there, I was able to just lay down and not have to worry about a single thing. So remember all of those things that I was seeing in the beginning, all of the darkness, the alien things. I was like, I'm under direct light of Jesus, and I can see him right now as I'm laying down here. So like, what could I possibly be afraid of? And this was like such a safe feeling that made me want to drink a little bit more in the middle of the night, because I felt like the effects are coming down, and I was like, no, I want to keep this. I want to keep this forever. And I wish I could keep it forever. This is such a vulnerable share, but you know what? I want to get the word out there. Well, this doesn't mean anything. I don't want to give it any kind of meaning. I don't want to say anything about it, because I still don't know how this happened and what this medicine is. So this is just the beauty of my second night of ceremony. And then on the third day, we get to eat a little bit more, because we're taking the third day off, and we're going to places. We're going to do some more volunteering with some underprivileged children, and it's nice. You get to have some peaceful time in the nature, in the environments of the property. I also want to say that because everybody who comes there comes from like totally different places and backgrounds, I didn't personally make like very intimate connections with anyone. And when I told them my story of what I saw on the second night, I kind of got judged a little bit as well. But I knew that I have to share with an open heart, because somebody needs to hear it. And I suggest you do too. And if people don't understand you, that's okay. Like, this is a totally personal journey for you. And the beautiful thing about Etnikas is that you can always share with the people, the staff. And also there is like a spiritual teacher there who I really loved. And her name is Sandra. And she has the capacity to understand what you've seen. So this was very beautiful and profound for me. So this third day, I'm just like in awe of all of the things that I've seen. And I'm like, how? Like, how could I never have thought of this? And how was I chosen? Was I really chosen? Because I didn't ask for it, and it was given to me, and I was saved. I was saved in the most beautiful way when I needed it. And so I keep talking to Sandra about it because she's a Christian and she understands what it is to see him. And so she gives me this children's Bible that I read and gives me so much comfort. Like, it's like this whole world of mysteries has opened to me, and I have so much to learn, and I have so many questions, and I'm like, what? I didn't expect this. I did not expect this. They also have like these meditation rooms where you can draw things. They have like art supplies, they have yoga mats, instruments. And so the third day I basically painted some scenes of what I saw on the second night. I also played a little bit of guitar, started singing with some of the people there, and I spent a lot of alone time in the nature by the river. And so the third ceremony, which was on the fourth day of the retreat, comes, and I'm like, what else could there be? Like, what else could happen? And I'm like praying, please make it a good ending. I want it to be like complete. This is my last night. And I kind of feel like everyone's a little bit stressed out, and I just remember that I wanted to sit in a specific spot, and my intuition guided me to sit there. I'm gonna be a little bit considerate about what I share here, but basically one of the people in this ceremony had a bad journey. I don't know about that person's internals, right? And this is the thing you have to know, like, your journey is yours. So if something bad happens to one person, it doesn't mean that it will happen to you. It's all about the trust and faith that you build within yourself to say, hey, you've got this, you're gonna get through this. And if you stay with the love and the light, and if you stay on God's side, you are protected. During the third ceremony, I take the same amount as the second night, and I'm waiting in the unknown, in the darkness, and this person starts making like noises and is very uncomfortable. He sounds like he's scared, and he starts shouting. And I get really alarmed. I get really tensed up and I get scared, and he doesn't stop. He just gets worse and worse and worse until they just take him out of the room. And he's like shouting really loud, and I get really triggered by that. So now, after a few months, I've been asking myself, why did I get so scared? Like, that kind of like set the whole theme for that night for me, was to stay in the fear. So the whole night I was in fear, and now I see that I have a lot of like childhood trauma regarding loud noises, loud shouting, or hearing someone in pain but not exactly knowing what they're going through. That really scares me. But now that I'm aware of where this is coming from, it's like I'm resolving it within myself and I'm healing it within myself. And so when they take this person out of the room, I'm just like so scared, and I feel like, oh my God, maybe it was like a demon that took him over and he was helpless. And so I'm just spending the whole night praying to God and praying to Jesus Christ, and I'm just like saying, save me, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And then I realize after like an hour or 2 hours, I'm like, hey, like the whole point that you needed to learn was to not stay in fear. Like, you have to keep loving, like keep bringing back yourself back to the love. And remember, Jesus was saying that you guys are always panicking. All you need to do is stop fearing and just come back to love. And then I was like, oh please, like, can I see him one more time? And my own inner knowing was answering myself and was saying that you've already seen me. You've already seen me like crystal clear the other night. So are you just going to doubt that I exist today, that I'm not here? Or are you going to keep your faith and believe? Believe that I'm always watching you. I told you, I'm always watching you and you're always fine. It's just that you always keep panicking. And so I was in this struggle the whole entire night. I didn't see anything visual. And the interesting thing is, I didn't see anything scary. It was that guy who was seeing something scary. But I, as an empath, I absorbed his pain. I absorbed his fear. And I was like replaying it. This like little 5 minutes, I replayed it the whole entire night. And I was feeling so sick. I couldn't even throw up. And basically everybody got out of the room except for me and this one guy. And I was still so scared. And I was like, what is it that I have to learn, Mother Ayahuasca? Like, what is it that I'm not getting? And I could feel she was like, and I was praying. I was like, please, can I throw up? Because if I throw up, all of this will be over. And she was like, nope, it's not time. And I was like, okay, then what is it that I'm not learning? And what did I tell you in the beginning? If you throw a tantrum, it's not going to work on this medicine. Like, you can't get angry at Mother Ayahuasca. You have to go with it. And so I was like, okay, like, what is it? And so I started scanning my body and I was like, oh my God, this incident happened like 4 hours ago. But I've been stuck in the feeling for 4 freaking hours. This is what I do in my whole entire life. Like, I drag a feeling, like something bad that happened, and I just drag it for the rest of my life because I love to sit in that misery, don't I? And so I knew how to do the chakra scanning. So I start to scan my chakras and I do the breathing meditation. Like, I'm doing everything that I know to get out of this state. And I keep like going through my root, my sacral, my solar plexus, and it gets to my heart and it's like, ooh, there's a block there and I can't open my heart. I'm like so tensed up out of the fear that there's no way that this energy just can flow, because if the energy flows, then I'll be feeling fine. So I keep breathing through my heart and pushing the breath up from my heart, and I keep doing that and I keep doing that. And I also see that my crown is blocked, and your crown is your connection to the divine and your surrender point, basically. And I realized that if I could just surrender to whatever is happening, and I could just trust that I'm under the light of God and He will take care of me. If not, just take me. You know, so I get to this point of death, maybe, like some people call it death, and I kind of feel like it was death because I realized that I'm just clenched up in my body because I don't want to die and I don't want to be taken over by a demon that I haven't even seen and I don't even know if exists. And so I'm like, you know what? If I stop clenching myself up, whatever happens, I am done with this misery. And by this time, like, everybody's gone. There's just this one nurse who's taking care of me, and I'm sitting there. And so I surrender and I let myself die. And as I surrender and I let myself die, my body just like loosens up. So there's no more clenching. There's nothing. And because I do that, my whole world and my whole mind starts to calm down. Everything quiets down. And, you know, I throw up the medicine and I'm just like sitting there in the silence and in the uncertainty of my faith. And I'm just like praying and I'm like, God, just do your thing and take care of me until morning. And it's a very uncomfortable night until the morning hits and the birds start to chirp and I realize, oh, I'm still alive and nothing happened and I feel okay. And that was like a very twisted ending to my ayahuasca experience. I felt like I should have ended on a great note, on a very high note, but I actually ended in a very humbled spot, you know? And that was the biggest lesson for me, that you cannot control the things that happen, but you can control how you respond to it. And do you know how much I've been stronger since that night? Like, if it was all love and light, like, it would have been beautiful. But that night has given me such faith, power, strength, and just confidence that I can handle the darkest of dark nights, and I can get through them, and my faith and my love and my humanity is going to get me through it. And I realized the importance of our intentions. Like, do you want to be on God's side, or do you want to entertain yourself with the dark entities? And I hope that you want to be on God's side. Like, you have to understand that ayahuasca is such a duality invoking medicine. So when you're on ayahuasca, it's like day and night, light and dark, and you're like constantly battling between feeling really great and feeling really low and feeling great and low. And you have to keep choosing to come back to the light and come back to the light. This is where I think people's experiences are different. And I had a very strong connection with God, as I explained to you. And when I came back, so this is the thing, the integration part is so important, because that's basically where you're coming back to your real life and you have to make sense out of all of this. So when I came back to my real life, first of all, I was in Cusco, so I had to spend a few more days alone in these like rusty hotel rooms that I had rented out, and I was kind of scared. So I didn't know what reality was. I'd never even thought of a demon before, and I've never even heard like anything that horrifying. So I had my little Bible and I was like questioning everything. And I'll just cut it short now. After a few months of really studying, researching, hearing everybody's experiences, I just think that this goes to show us, I want to say that we don't know the answers. Like, this is the mystery of this world. We don't know what's behind the veil, and we don't know what happens when we die. But I know that the mind and beliefs are the strongest things in this world. Like, if you believe that demons exist, they will literally appear to you. And if you believe that God exists, it will literally appear to you. And if you believe whichever side you're on will basically be your reality. So choose wisely what you choose to believe in. Like, what are your intentions? If you have good intentions, then you're in the safe zone. If you have bad intentions, you always have that guilt and karma following you around. And this is what I felt like in my flesh and my bones through this ayahuasca experience, that it's so important to have good intentions like all the freaking time, and keep purifying your heart and come from a heart-centered place, whatever you want to do in this world. Because at the end of the day, hell and heaven, they all exist within our mind. It's nothing out there. It's literally like, if that was a glimpse of what death is like, then I want to make sure that I am heart-centered and I am on the side of the light, you know? And I also want to say that there's always a way back to the light from wherever you are. No matter how fucked up you've been, if you just call on the divine help, if you call for God, He will answer you. And this is all just for you to have a better life experience and to have more fulfillment in your own life, honestly. That was so long. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Conclusion: do I think everybody should experience ayahuasca? Probably not, because it's so intense, and I know that I'm a pretty tough girl. Like, not everybody will be able to get through that without throwing a tantrum, so it's all to your own discretion. But if you are anything like me, like a truth seeker, an adventurer, and you're like, no, I've got to try this in my life before I die, then go do it. Like, and trust yourself. Build that trusting relationship with yourself. Now, what do I think about Etnikas? Etnikas maybe is not the greatest. I do think that the property, the location, and the way they handle things is really good, but I guess if they could improve one thing is to have more talking sessions and more like Andean wisdom teachings. But you have to understand that nobody can give you answers. Like when you do ayahuasca, it's a personal journey. You just go there and they make sure that you're not dying, and they have doctors and everything, but you have to make sense out of your own journey. You have to understand what it's teaching you. You have to keep asking the medicine, what does this mean? Like, what are you trying to say? And you have to be open-minded to accept what you hear back, because there were people there who were like, oh, I didn't experience anything. I didn't see anything. And you get what you put in. Like, this is literally a reflection of this world. This is how this world works. Whatever you believe will become your reality. Do you want to feel like you're having an amazing time? You had the most profound like epiphanies in this journey, then you'll get them. You know what I mean? Just like how I did. I kind of like put all of the pieces of this puzzle together to be able to make sense, and I continue to do that right now. Like, I'm like, what, does Jesus exist? Like, or was this just like a symbol? Like, what is happening? And I continue to ask these questions, okay? And I'm not saying that I have the answers yet, but I love when you get one answer and then another question pops up, and this can go on for eternity. But I want to say that Etnikas is the most like affordable one with a high quality service compared to all of the places that I saw in Costa Rica, which start from like $4,000 to $5,000 for the same amount of nights. I couldn't afford those, and so I went to Etnikas, and I took responsibility for my own healing journey, and for like whatever happens. Like, I'm here to either die or find the truth. Like, that was literally how devoted I was. And it's not like it's a very dangerous medicine. However, if you cheat the diet and if you do drugs before you go there, that's going to be very dangerous. Don't do that. Don't cheat your way. Just like do the thing and stay away from the things that you have to stay away from, especially like smoking weed or like taking mushrooms or any psychedelics. They have like huge interference with this plant medicine. And lastly, would I do it again? I'm not sure. I really don't know. Sometimes I say yes, I want to do it again. Sometimes I'm like, no, I already got what I needed to get, because it did leave me in a very dualistic kind of thinking atmosphere for a while, where I was like, we have to fight against evil. And I've told you that I'm on a spiritual journey and I want to transcend above the dualistic thinking, because also one of the things that Mama Ayahuasca taught me was to love everything. Like, don't judge anything, don't hate anything. It doesn't help when you hate. Just love the good, the bad, and the ugly, and just make your way in this life with love. And so I don't want to be the kind of person who keeps looking for the demons to try to prove the demons, because if you try to look for them, they'll appear out of the power of your own mind, okay? And that's not a good place or a fun place to live. I was there for a few days, and then I realized, oh, it's just my mind creating this. And I never saw anything scary, I'll tell you that. But just knowing that I have Jesus like in my heart, and whenever I'm in trouble or if I'm scared, I can just call on him. And his name is the strongest. It's so strong that anything dark will disappear. Like, what else do you need in this life? I'm just gonna leave it at that. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave me comments if you've had any experiences with ayahuasca. How was it for you? If you have any further questions, just please be very mindful about what you're typing here, because this was probably the most vulnerable story of my life that I shared here with you. So I hope that it helps, and I hope that it lights up the path of your truth-seeking journey. Stay strong, stay with the light, and know that God is always there to help you. I love you.